It's AM 650 KGAB Radio. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. It's a Tuesday, and sitting in the studio with me is a gentleman who wants to be your state treasurer here in the state of Wyoming. It's Rod Rado, who hails from here in Cheyenne, apparently.
I was born in Hayward, but I live in Cheyenne.
You live in Cheyenne now. Okay. Born in Hayward, and let me ask you,
California.
What did you, way out in I'm glad you escaped California. Yeah, it's a good place. When did you finally wind up in Wyoming from California?
I came out here in '88.
Okay, 88. So you've been here all this time? Yeah. And what have you done during that time, done for a living, for example, during that time?
Well, I did work for the state treasurer's workers' compensation division in 1989.
Okay.
And after that, I spent like 14 years driving a truck.
Okay.
But I kept track of what was going on in the state treasurer's office. And when I was in California, I was an auditor for the workers' compensation of the state there. And I even worked when Reagan was governor there for several. He was the first 6 years I was there. He was governor.
Okay. Now, in the past few years that you've been here in Cheyenne, what's it been?
I've done like Meals on Wheels, a free volunteer driving in
I see those
2014.
Yeah, I see those around town.
Yeah, and I was my last job up through July 11th. I was working in the Habitat for Humanity Restore. In other words, a capital R-E and then a capital S.
In fact, I wanted to get some furniture for just down in my cellar area, just so I can have something comfortable that wasn't expensive, just to lounge around on. And I went to the Restore and got this. It's a good place to pick up stuff.
Oh, yeah, they have really low prices.
Yeah, especially if you want to go ahead and fix something up. So it's a good place to be.
Yeah.
All right. What attracted you to the office of treasurer for the state of Wyoming?
Well, I felt that there were problems in there that weren't being addressed. And I kind of been hoping to find somebody to endorse, and like I did go listen to the other two candidates, and they're good candidates, but they just weren't oriented to the problems that I saw. And
so what were the problems that you see?
Well, one of them that I discussed back in 2014 was the language of the statutes. They require audited statements of anybody becoming an investment manager and what they've done before they became a manager. In other words, they're auditing the past, getting a certified financial statement about that. But the statute only says the investment manager shall make quarterly reports. It doesn't say anything about requiring audits. And I believe the statutes should be changed to maybe not quarterly, but annually have audits, and then not just say audits, but according to the standards set by CPA, because they have like standards, CPA standards for government agency audits. And, so in other words, put something in the statutes explaining what the audit standards were for them, and to do that. And that was one of my concerns. And another one that is fairly not discussed, but is the capital gains are now being considered part of income, and they're put on the table to be spent. And I had a copy of what they'd say op-ed from Nell Smith, who was one of the original sponsors of the Permanent Mineral Trust Fund. He also was a Speaker of the House, and he says that that's wrong to be using the capital gains as income and spending it, and it could wind up in court. And if somebody takes the state of Wyoming to court, they could force the state to pay back the money they've been taking in the last few years to cover.
I guess the question would be, where would they get that money from then?
Yeah, that they'd have to start maybe having income tax
Yeah,
or something.
yeah.
And I feel that they should try to stop doing that
Right.
as soon as possible. It might make a few people upset that they can't get into the capital gains, but here's a quote from the statute. It says, "The fund, including all monies deposited in the fund from whatever source, shall be deemed inviolate." And so people, when they see a stock go up in the mineral trust fund, they don't consider that to be something to be spent. But as soon as the stock is sold, and if there's a profit, they've been putting it in a column where it can be spent.
When do you, or what would you do if you could have your way? Because I know it's not for the treasurer to decide.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
As treasurer, though, what would you think should be done? Should this be rolled back into the investments for the rainy day fund?
Or it should be rolled back into the investments. And in other words, I've seen other candidates say they want to do something about inflation and have the funds protected from inflation, and that is the purpose of keeping the capital gains in the funds, because that is increasing the value of them and keeping up with inflation and maybe even getting ahead of it.
Okay. When we look at the treasurer's office, part of that is taking a look at investments for the state as well. And you have qualifications, because some of the other candidates come along and say, "Oh, I'm qualified to make investments for the state because I've been," and they list their qualifications. So what are your qualifications there, and how would you invest?
Well, I have a BS degree in technical arts from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and I did take some business courses and a few accounting courses. But basically, I learned about auditing and finances after I got out of college.
Okay.
And the keeping up with things that were going on. So I don't have anything that I can point to, but like in 1990, I was asked what to invest in and what the state should invest in, and I said, well, the state should put 5% of their money in silver. And the article that covered that said that silver was $4.20. So that long term, even though it's a very choppy, erratic market, long term, I think that's still good advice for the state to get 5% of their funds into that. And otherwise, I would mainly be going to experts that have shown that they can make money and get their advice. So that's the key thing that I would do.
Ron Rado is running for state treasurer here in the state of Wyoming. If you have any questions, phone lines are open. 632-6500. That's 632-6500. It's AM 650 KGAB Radio.
Sam Galiotis is a Wyoming native and a successful conservative businessman with the real-world experience to cut taxes, create more jobs, get government out of the way, and protect our Wyoming values. As governor, Sam will lead with conservative ideas and a fresh perspective. Take it from Cynthia Lummis.
It's a beautiful morning in Wyoming where we tackle challenges with a fresh perspective. That fresh perspective makes Sam Galiotis unique. Sam's a successful conservative businessman who knows low taxes and less regulation will protect the jobs we have and create new jobs for our kids. Sam's strongly pro-life, a defender of the Second Amendment, and will champion the conservative family values that make us Wyoming.
That was Cynthia Lummis with her take on conservative businessman Sam Galiotis. As a successful business leader, Sam Galiotis is the political outsider who will protect our Wyoming way of life. Sam Galiotis, conservative ideas and a fresh perspective for Wyoming. Paid for by Galiotis for Governor.
Okay, David Dotson for Senate radio commercial. Take one.
My roots run deep in Wyoming.
Mr. Dotson, didn't you move from Massachusetts to Jackson Hole just a few years ago?
Ah, right. Try this. My conservative values run deep in Wyoming.
Not to nitpick, Mr. Dotson, but you voted Democrat in Massachusetts. Plus, you donated $2,300 to Obama and another $1,000 to Bernie Sanders, and He's a socialist.
What if I say, my love for Wyoming runs deep in...
Wait, Mr. Dodson, aren't you building a multi-million-dollar home in California?
But my bond with the Big Sky State runs deep in...
Mr. Dodson, you opposed the Trump tax cuts. And, sir, FYI, the Big Sky State, it's Montana.
Montana?
I'm John Barrasso, candidate for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by friends of John Barrasso.
Hey, this is Rosie Harvey, your local online marketing consultant from Town Square Interactive. Do you own a small business and want to have more results with your website? Or maybe you just need a website. You're good at what you do. You don't have to be good at digital marketing, too. Leave that to me in Town Square Interactive, and we'll make sure your business has the online presence it deserves. With month-to-month contracts, personalized marketing packages, single points of contact, you don't have any 800 numbers to deal with or automated answering systems when you choose Town Square Interactive for your digital marketing campaign. If you don't have time to advertise your business by yourself, rely on us at Town Square Interactive to make sure your ideal customers can find you online. We'll even take the guesswork out of determining the ROI by sending you monthly reports and giving you a live dashboard login. Town Square Interactive will give your business the visibility it deserves. Call me, Rosie Harvey, at 287-0240 to learn more about how I can help you market your small business. Again, that's 287-0240. Or you can look me up online at townsquareinteractive.com/Cheyenne.
7:49 is the time. It's AM 650 KGAB Radio. My name's Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining. Sitting in the studio with me is Ron Rado. He is running for state treasurer here in the state of Wyoming and has brought with him a whole booklet of stories and information, which I get. Did you just put that together for the interview, or have you been putting that over the
I've
years?
had these things, and I did shuffle them a little bit.
Yeah. All right, so state treasurer office, let's talk about what you see as, what is the function in your mind of the state treasurer for Wyoming?
Well, the main function is to take care of the money and protect it, to protect the wealth of Wyoming, and to seek out the type of investments that are both safe and give a good return. In other words, you don't go for a big return if there's a risk that's too great. And you basically have other responsibilities on commissions like the State Loan and Investment Board and the other boards. You have to be able to try to deal with the problems of local communities maybe wanting to have infrastructure like a water treatment plant, and can the state help them? And if they do help that town get the water treatment plant, some other town is going to come along and say, hey, we don't need a water treatment plant, but can you do this or that? And so you have to deal with the local communities, and for that, I feel I'd have to travel around to those smaller towns and directly communicate with them to find out what they need.
Well, you do have some say-so on the board, but but of course, ultimately, I would guess that if the money's going to go out to them or not wouldn't be up to you. You're just overseeing it, right?
Right. Yeah, the Wyoming Business Council has a voice in some of these things, these infrastructure projects, or if they want to start a business, that they come in and give a recommendation, and they'll set a maximum amount of loan or grant that can be given to them, and that's what the State Loan and Investment Board deals with, those estimates.
Okay. Some of what we're invested in the state of Wyoming, again, is stocks and bonds. You mentioned silver. Is there anything else that the state, do you think, should be invested in besides, let's say, the stock market or the silver and gold market?
Well, I think it maybe ought to cut back on the foreign investments. Okay. Back in '96, when they passed the investment plan, the state treasurer told people it was for investing in domestic stock. And then the next month, there were people in the legislature that were trying to pass bills to invest in foreign bonds and foreign stock. And I did get involved in opposing that. And now there's not that many people that are opposed to foreign investment. I think they ought to develop a list as to what countries aren't safe to invest in. In other words, to put some restrictions on the foreign investments.
Right. Because some of those foreign investments are also, let's say, nations we just don't want to do business with in the first place, I would say. Right. But also not safe, probably because there are nations that are just financially themselves having a lot of trouble. Yeah. Okay, so when you take a look at some of your competitors in the race, because you said there's a few things that they are doing that you disagree with, is there anything in particular that you disagree with, that you know, when you listen to what they're saying about what they want to do with the investments, is there any way of investing that you disagree with?
Not exactly. No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I've never seen them come out against foreign investments,
right,
or limiting it, and that's one area where I'd say that I differ with them on that. And also, like on foreign investments, I had an example here of Hewlett-Packard. They took a $8.8 billion charge in 2012 related to acquisition of Autonomy, and that's a British software firm, and they had false accounting directly related to $5 billion of the Hewlett-Packard loss. So even though that is a good country to invest in, you can also have problems in good foreign countries.
Right. So again, your idea would be to find people who are good at investment and have their ear to the game, if you will, and then go ahead and hire them. Where do you find those people?
Yeah, that is a difficult question. You would maybe talk to companies like Charles Schwab, for example. One thing I think should be done is the money could be given to a custodian like Charles Schwab, and you'd still have these money managers, but they wouldn't handle the money. They'd make the decisions on what to buy and what to sell, and Charles Schwab would handle the money. So that way you wouldn't have to be going out and auditing 20 different companies to see where the money was going and what stocks were involved with.
Okay, so you would locate that with one company.
Yeah, that's something I think should be studied, evaluated, is having a custodian do it. So,
well, I have heard from both candidates and our current treasurer. It looks like Wyoming has been doing well so far, but some people think it can do better with its investments.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, I don't think that I could do better than the numbers that they've recently